check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
It is a very special edition of the program, a crossover episode where I'm joined not only by loyal co-partner Dionne Miller, but other loyal co-partner Rich Campbell. This is wild. I don't think we've all been together since we were in a cellar in London.
Can you feel? I'm oozing with excitement, Rich. It is so wonderful to see you. This is awesome. I don't think we have all been together since we were in the cellar restaurant in London.
Well, certainly we spent the last 11 weeks of that season in the Hell Salt press room. But
well, Dan, whatever you can do to just move yourself out of this panel, I'm here to talk to Dionne. I just miss Dionne, so we'll take it from here. Thanks, pal.
Thanks for bringing us in, Dan. We'll talk to you later.
Just to be clear to the audience, the cellar in London was actually a restaurant that we ate at during the Bears trip to play the Raiders at Tottenham Stadium. We weren't abducted and kept down there by some crazy English people.
It was a wine cellar place.
It was awesome.
It was lovely. Yeah, it was excellent.
It was lovely.
Terrific dinner. And that was eons ago. And yet the Chicago Bears still have not gotten out of the funk that began really with that trip to play the Raiders in London, because that was the start of a lengthy losing streak that season in 2019. Rich, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. They experienced an even longer losing streak in 2020. And now here we are again, 4-game losing streak, haven't won since they left Las Vegas on October 10th. It's been almost 40 days, 40 days as of today since their last victory. How the heck did they spin out of this?
It's time for a reset, though, right? I mean, the bye week, let's look forward to the second half of the season and try to see what's ahead for them, because it could go two ways here. And maybe the three of us sort of suspect what way it's going to go, at least as we follow that storyline about whether Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy will be here beyond this season. But there's a lot of nuance within that, starting with quarterback Justin Fields. So let's get into it.
I don't know what we're looking forward to, though. Like, it's the same. It is infuriating to me that we've been telling the same stories for 3 straight seasons, and they came out of the bye week this week. Matt Nagy's literally like skipping into the media press conference, like, woohoo, look at where we're at. And it's like, hello, you've lost 4 in a row again. And you're just saying the same things again and again and again. And all he can take from that is, oh, look, but we recovered. We recovered. You didn't. It's the same cycle. And I guess that's why to think, oh my gosh, we have 8 games left. What are we truly going to see?
Well, let me give you something to look forward to, because I'm glad you mentioned that there's 8 games left. That's a lot of football left to be played. Justin Fields played 8 games in his last season at Ohio State. Remember, it was a COVID abbreviated season. And even after they got through the college football playoffs, he still only played 8 games. So he still has his full final season in college left ahead of him in his rookie season in the NFL, which is time to experience potentially a significant amount of growth that then puts this franchise on steadier footing than it's on now. I think what we saw coming out of Pittsburgh was an offense that seemed to discover something, right? 287 yards after halftime. We've talked about it for 2 weeks. That was very promising. And it was the way those 287 yards came in a game that hadn't gotten away from the Bears. A lot of times you get that garbage time production that elevates the stats and it looks better than actually look. The Bears were in a game against a quality defense on the road, and they stepped up to the challenge. Dionne, you've heard it the last couple of weeks, the players and the coaches talking about the positive energy that has brought and the self-assurance and the calm that Justin Fields has brought to the huddle in getting that production. Well, we've got 8 more weeks to test whether that can be consistent, whether it can be sustained, and whether those flashes can be more prevalent. So I personally feel like that is the one thing to look forward to in a season that we all feel like is not going to end up in the postseason.
Well, we've got 2 games in the next 6 days to see exactly where they can take that momentum from 2 weeks ago into the next game. That's the one thing that has been consistent with this regime, has been their inability to take one positive into the next one and kind of turn that around and stack the wins, as they've said. They've not really done that. And so I'm hoping that production leads them to out of this losing streak so that it doesn't end up being 5 in a row before they get to Thanksgiving Day.
And we've seen this over the years, right? That a requirement for winning games is that positivity in the minute-to-minute, the hour-to-hour at Hallis Hall where you're going through the grind. But it does not guarantee that you win games.
Right.
You've got to have it to win, but it doesn't mean you're going to win. And the Bears have not been able to make that connection, regardless of who their head coach has been for the last decade, regardless of who their starting quarterback has been. And so the skepticism in the fan base, saying, I'm tired of hearing that. I want to see the points. I want to see the wins. It's completely justifiable. And then the Bears are just going to have to prove it here. All we have to go off of in the meantime are things like, let's say, what Bill Lazor was saying this week about Justin Fields. Those types of reports are encouraging, and we're going to have to see it beginning Sunday against the Ravens.
So, Rich, you brought up two key words, the grind. And we're not talking about the 1990s MTV show that you guys were both loyal watchers
I'd log in to talk about that for a while.
The grind that we're talking about here is what Justin Fields and this offense have to remain immersed in for these final 8 weeks. And it's not easy to do when playoff contention becomes further and further out of your perspective, right? And I thought it was very interesting to hear Bill Lazor speak this week about Justin's need to make sure that his mental and emotional fuel tank stays full during a period where the needle is definitely going to start to waver a little bit, right? There's a lot that goes into staying connected to the grind for as long as you have to stay in that grind as a rookie quarterback trying to make strides. Bill Lazor said something back, I think it was either in August or September, about that Justin doesn't just want to be great, that everybody wants to be great, but he has the willingness to do what it takes to be great. And now they want to see if that can stay intact through a prolonged stretch here where there's going to be a lot asked of him. Dionne, you were there on I guess it was Thursday afternoon where Bill Lazor was speaking about how much is on Justin Fields' plate every single day. The minute he walks in the building, someone needs something from him at every minute. It's a coach trying to coach him up. It's a receiver or a tight end saying, hey, can we work on this route? It's film study. It's studying an opposing defense. It's trying to figure out all these things and keep yourself energized and connected to that grind in a way that rubs off on everybody else around you. That is a really difficult process. Bill Lazor admitted how difficult that is, and now it's up to Justin Fields to show that he has what the organization believe he has to take them forward.
I think he already has shown it. Wasn't that eye-opening? I mean, when he said the mental grind that it is to be an NFL quarterback, I thought, okay. But then as he spoke about it, and like from the moment he walks in the building, he's being coached by several different voices, hopefully somewhat unified when it comes to coaching and setting up plays for him and kind of helping him excel at what he's really good at. But at 22 years old, he's dealing with all of those things and still finding a way to make progress on the field. I think it said a lot about just who he is. And I appreciated how Lazor explained that, you talk to college coaches about how will they deal with these things, because he's never gone through a 4-game losing streak ever. And so how is he navigating that while trying to take the next step with the offense? And I loved at the end of that game in Pittsburgh that he and Cole come out, were like, look, we're close. We're really close. It's right there. And they're part of that generation. It's not going to be Jimmy Graham. It's going to be those guys who are going to take this offense forward for the franchise. And that is exciting to see. And I was encouraged by hearing that is the character of who Justin Fields really is.
And Rich, before I turn that over to you, I thought a credit to Lazor was saying, we don't know what Justin is going to show over these next 8 weeks. He's saying, like, I can't predict that. And I want to see it with my own eyes to believe it. And so a credit to a coach for having a realistic viewpoint of, look, like, we can believe all we want about the kid. Well, he has to show it to us over these next 8 weeks, which are going to be very challenging.
Yeah, and I think as part of Bill Lazor's comments, what you saw was an awareness from his coaches that there's a sweet spot between him sort of letting it rip and really just trying to take everything he can get and being conservative, right? And just really trying to play within the offense. That sweet spot in there,
yeah.
We want to see Justin Fields in that area. And I think we're going to recognize that when you see his natural ability to make plays start to show, like it did so often at the end of the Steelers game, where he's rolling to his left and making really, pinpoint accurate throws across his body. So he's letting that natural ability come out, because ultimately all this coaching, right? Ability to read defenses, ability to recognize keys and know where to go with the ball. The objective of everything, right, is for it to become second nature to him. So how naturally are the plays coming to him over the second half? That's what I want to see. We need him to make good decisions. They need him to make good decisions like 3rd and 6, right? But is it flowing smoothly? Is it natural? If it is, there's going to be a lot to look forward to by the time we get to December.
So that's a natural segue to 2 plays that we can talk about from the Steelers game that illustrate natural, right? And one of them is off script and one of them is on script. And so Matt Nagy said coming out of the Steelers game that the 28-yard seam shot that Justin Fields hit to Jimmy Graham was a top 3 throw in the NFL this season. Now, Rich, you remember obviously the infamous Trubisky, Gabriel, up the sideline in Miami in 2018. And we thought that was a flash that showed that Mitch was on the right track. But this throw to Jimmy Graham, everyone in the building has talked about this at length. I've been getting teased by fellow reporters in the media room that I'm going to write a 5,000-word oral history on this one throw in a losing football game.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Because there's been so much praise brought to it. We heard from Jimmy Graham on Thursday talking about, listen, it starts with a read, right? And Justin read something that we hadn't really practiced all week, where the look of that play was designed to go the other direction. And Justin saw the safety, the deep safety, cheated over a little bit to the other direction and said, I'm going to have a window to Jimmy Graham here up the seam. Well, not only does he have that window, he's got a pass rush coming at him, and he can see the pass rush coming at him, and he knows he's going to get drilled the minute he releases that football, and he still throws a pinpoint throw to Graham up the seam that starts everything in the fourth quarter, gets that jump start going for them. The second one is the touchdown throw to Darnell Mooney. And look, that's off script, right? Darnell Mooney's route is a hitch route to the 5-yard line. Justin doesn't have enough time to set in the pocket and has to get outside the pocket, starts rolling to his left. And the one thing you heard from Mike Furrey and John DeFilippo is just how easy the two of those guys, and it's important to say the two of those guys, made that play look, because these guys have a connection and they're both young players. They're going to have a chance to build on that chemistry. And so for Justin in that moment to not panic, to get outside the pocket, to know exactly what he's seeing, and then, Rich, to your point, to show a natural ability to throw the ball right on the money to where the receiver is going, that's the stuff that wins you football games, right? And now it's got to win you football games going forward.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing that could transcend a coaching staff. If there is a coaching change at the end of the year, that Justin Fields can take that growth with him to whatever is next. And so as fans look at Fields' growth within the context of whatever is going to happen with management and leadership, how you differentiate between these dynamics really is going to affect how you feel about what the 2021 Bears accomplish, right? Because in some ways, they are on separate tracks. The quarterback with his development and young receivers around him. Is the head coach going to be part of it? What carries over? Do you, at some point, accept the fact that the playoffs are not possible for this team, and therefore you're looking to other signs of growth? There's a lot to be sorted out here, but when you think about long-term, it is about that quarterback growth. And what you described with the Jimmy Graham throw in particular, Dan, that's everything, right? Something you hadn't scouted or practiced, an instinct for the game. Now you just got to repeat it over and over. It's what the great ones do.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the playoffs are off the table. I'm going to go ahead and go down that road and start looking at the offensive growth. And I retract my earlier statement. I am excited to see how they build on it. I lied. I'm completely excited. I cannot wait to see exactly what they do next. But the one thing that, as we were talking about those two plays, and the one thing that showed was early in the season, what did they talk about Justin? Justin early was like, he needs to understand the difference between NFL Open and College Open. And like, am I going to be able to hit this guy in stride? And that was where I feel like we saw that evidence right away. So to me, that does get me excited, because if he's able to do that through his first 7 starts, how much more this game is going to slow down for him. And remember, he said way early that statement that got blown way out of the water. Like it really felt slow to me. I think that's part of his growth, is that he's able to take into account everything that's happening in that 5-6 second moment and still able to find success. It's something that I've admired in quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers. When you say, how did that play work out? And he is able to tell you exactly what everybody was doing in that moment. That's what the Bears need Justin Fields to be able to do. And I think we're starting to see the developments of laying that foundation for him.
Probably the most impressive thing about this kid in the 6 months that we've gotten to know him is his self-assurance, really, in every situation, whether they come off a loss where they get blown out by 20 or 30 points, or whether it's a big drive like he had in Pittsburgh to put the Bears ahead in the final minutes. There's just a level of infectious self-assurance that rubs off on everyone else around you. I feel like when we were going through the early stages of Mitch Trubisky's growth process, there was a ton of hope, right? It was all hope. It was all hope-based, and everyone hoped, and it was like hope. I'm using this key word here, hope, right? With Fields, you hear it from teammates and coaches. It's belief. Like it's a sense that this is going to happen. It just requires a certain timeline to get through some of the early stages and the early growth bumps, and eventually it'll be there. Now, what does that belief translate into? Does it make him a top 3 quarterback in the league at some point? Maybe. Would the Bears be satisfied if he is a top 14 quarterback in the league, and they can actually give him a contract extension and a 5th-year option and have to not readdress that position on an annual basis for the next, 10 years. Yeah, absolutely. But I think there is a belief that Justin Fields is going to be playing football for a long time in this organization at a level that is going to allow them to be successful.
And so just to play devil's advocate here for a minute, or even weatherman, there are some storm clouds on the horizon for this team and the organization, right? I mean, if Dionne, like you're saying, and I wouldn't disagree with you, the playoffs are going to be out of reach for this team. The head coach is going to be on the hot seat. There are going to be louder and louder speculation about his future as the season gets into December and January. So picture, Justin Fields, he's in the building, right? Like the stone structure, and like the stones are starting to fall around him and the ground is starting to shake, right? How poised does he remain? How conducive to growth is that dynamic? When Dan, you and I talked about this for years in the number of coaching searches that we've covered, is that when you get to the end of a situation like this, self-interest starts to take over in pockets, and it's not a positive, productive environment that's conducive to growth and long-term vision, right? Let's see if these hopeful, belief vibes right now still exist when we get to, let's say, 3-4 games from now.
I do agree, though, that poise that he's shown, that's what everybody says. I mean, it feels, and I hear it from, Darnell Mooney, and you hear it from David Montgomery, but man, it means something when Jimmy Graham is the one saying it too. Like, he's unbelievable because he's been around so many great quarterbacks, and he's been in this league for a long time, and he knows what he's looking for. And for him to say Justin has the ability to be at that elite level, I mean, that echoes through Hallis Hall, and that gives everybody more belief than just hope.
Dionne, Jimmy's voice has weight to it, right? Like you've been around him and you've listened to him talk, and every time he comes in there, and it's not often, right? It's not a very frequent visit with Jimmy Graham, but when we do get to visit with Jimmy, he's very insightful, and you can just feel the years of experience, right? In the way he speaks about certain players and certain concepts and certain things. And so I was not sat up in my chair when Jimmy talked about the signs of future potential that he sees in this offense with a young nucleus of guys that includes Justin, includes Darnell Mooney, it includes David Montgomery, and it includes Cole Kmet, who's a young tight end who had just had his best game in Pittsburgh. And so when Jimmy speaks that way, it comes across with sincerity, right? And there's a genuineness to the praise that he issues. He's not just throwing out bouquets to throw out bouquets. And so it brings you back to this idea that it's not just Justin's growth that means something here. There's this young nucleus of guys that have only been in the league 2 or 3 years that can grow up together, right? And that's what an offense is supposed to look like ultimately for championship teams. You get a group of guys that can stick together for 4 or 5 years, be on the same page with everything they do. We watch Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers twice a year, and you go, man, wouldn't it be cool to see that type of connection and chemistry at some point in our life covering the Bears? And so these things are all intertwined, I think, and I thought that was very notable from Jimmy on Thursday.
I'm not sure it's going to happen as quickly as we want it to, but I do think that it is coming. I really do. And I think, but here's the thing is the offense growing, and is the offense starting to find consistency because Justin is such a good athlete and not because Matt Nagy is the one at the helm. I think that is the one thing that has rung true through this losing streak and through this season, through the last 3 seasons when they've dealt with adversity like this, is that Nagy sounds not like a head coach. He talks in circles, and he protests too much, right? Like, it's just, that's what's so frustrating, is that he is not with authority saying, like, we believe in this, we believe in, he's not. Bill Lazor's saying it, but you don't hear it from Nagy the way that I think you would want to from a head coach. And so I think that's where the front office has to really evaluate what this team does over these next 8 games, and is it finding any success because of Nagy? And I'm not sure at this point that they will.
These next 8 games have to be underscored by the word opportunity. It starts with the Ravens, a team that is going to score, right? Mm-hmm. So let's see some crooked numbers, right? Let's see a 60-minute game. For all the praise rightfully heaped on them after the Steelers game, it doesn't take much to think back like, oh yeah, the first half though, right? I mean, that's the reason they had to dig themselves out. So they'll see a complete game. It starts with the script, right? And to your point, Dionne, about how is the coaching staff going to get this team prepared to come out firing and to have that confidence where you see the natural playmaking ability of even like an Allen Robinson, who we don't really mention as part of the young core because that's just another question mark about the future, but somebody who is in a great position to help, right? To get this thing going.
That's a great tease to our next video where the three of us will break down the Ravens game. Also, Rich, you gave us a great idea for a spinoff here. I was thinking about Devil's Advocate Weatherman. We could do some sort of spinoff with that. It felt like there's some potential there. It's got a good title. It's catchy, and the audience will catch on.
It's filmed in Cancun in like a knee-high wave pool with just beats in the background, right? And that's it.
I'm in. Sign me up. I mean, I'm game for whatever that would entail.
Dionne, as long as you're bringing any baked goods, I'll go anywhere on camera.
I got to get in the rhythm of my baked goods, Rich. You are missing out. Oh, well, no, it was only one time so far.
I was just going to say, Dionne says you're missing out. She's brought baked goods one time in 2 years, and it was this week.
I count that as missing out. I count that as
I'm missing out. Dionne, I'm the one that's there all the time needing baked goods.
Don't yell at me. Okay, so Pat Finley is the one who said Dionne brought baked goods. The pandemic is officially over. So I think that now that we're all in the room, we're all vaccinated, we're all feeling good. We've got 8 games left. I can kick up my game from the first week. I'm really excited to see what I can show over these next 8 weeks of baking.
Rich, it was Snickerdoodle bars this week. Those are the favorite of this guy. They were in the room.
I'm going to need a care package. I'll send you my info.
I don't know how well they'll ship. I'm not ready for the critique after shipped baked goods, but
okay. Yeah, you have very high standards. I get that. I appreciate that. Yeah, only the best for me. Thank you.
Of course.
Well, that brings an end to our first of 2 special crossover episodes. We will give you another one with our thoughts on Bears Ravens here in a day or so. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you soon.